I woke up to an alarm blaring in my ears. I lazily lifted an arm and punched the cursed device, temporarily turning it off, but also knocking it off my nightstand. Propping myself on my elbows, I turned my head and checked the calendar hanging on my wall. It read November 12th, 2010. I've been doing this for 84 days now, with 97 more to go. I dragged myself out of bed and shrugged on a shirt and some pants that I found on a heap on the floor. I stumbled twice as I moped to the kitchen and sat down next to my sister, who looked just as tired as I felt. My mom shoved a bowl of soggy oats in front of me, not bothering to say hello. Judging from the dark circles under her eyes and her sour expression, that it told me that she had stayed up too late checking her emails. I glared resentfully down at the detestable bowl of grain, but sighed and ate a spoonful. After guzzling down as little as I needed, I slung on my backpack and traipsed out the door, my sister in tow. We then picked up our rusty scooters and took off down the driveway. Once we reached the bottom of a hill, we hid our scooters in a clump of bushes next to the driveway we always waited at. And from down the street, a rumble sounded, slowly but surely growing louder. Then, a muddy yellow school bus sped around the corner of the street, definitely going faster than the speed limit allowed. Excuse me. It screamed to a halt at the driveway and opened its door with a sigh of steam. I clambered on board and chose a seat near the back, my sister following. My sister made sure to sit near the edge, though, because she liked to gamble with the fourth graders about silly bands and Pokemon cards. I usually like to isolate myself by staring out the window, which was covered in fingerprints, and watch the neighborhood go by in a whirl of color. I tried to rest my head on the grimy window pane, but was knocked into it repeatedly as we ran over bumps and rocks in the road. I groaned and propped my seat on the back of a greasy leather seat and tried to get some extra sleep in. Madeline shook me awake as we stopped outside the school building. As I exited the bus, I was met by our gargantuan building of blue cement and filth. Students filed into the front doors from every direction, their faces filled with dread as they anticipated the long day ahead of them. I was one of them. The students around me usually liked to take the stairs up to their rooms because they were usually a grade older, but I took a hallway to my right. The sound of my shoes on the hallway floor were the only sound as I made my way to the classroom door. A ceiling light a few feet ahead of me flickered, illuminating the poorly thought-out paintings lining the walls and the trash lingering on the floor. At long last, I reached the door. There were red scratch marks strewn across the boarded wood. It's just paint, I reassured myself. I reached for the doorknob, my hand shaking slightly, and opened the door. Bright fluorescent lights stung my eyes, and when they adjusted, I took in the classroom. 15 other students stared back at me, all wearing their faces of dread. I chose an empty seat, clutching my books a little tighter than I normally would, avoiding all their gazes. I plopped in between a girl who screamed popular and a boy who was clearly asleep. He wisely brought sunglasses to class. After everyone was settled, the teacher cleared her throat and began the class. Her voice was scratchy and monotone, which made it very difficult to pay attention. To amuse myself, I began fiddling with a pen, clicking the top of it repeatedly until my teacher couldn't stand it anymore and had to take it away. I was able to hold still after that for a little while, at least until my foot fell asleep. It started off as a numb feeling, but when I squeezed my toes together, the pins and needles attacked. The intolerable feeling was climbing up my calf. I bit my lip, trying to keep the squealing at bay, and frequently bounced my leg. I tried to focus on anything except my useless limb, so I looked to the boy at my right and was repulsed to find that he was digging for gold. I hid my disgust, but made a mental note never to sit next to him again. After a few minutes, my leg mellowed down, and the boredom seeped in again. The next couple hours consisted of yawning till tears formed in my eyes, accidentally touching gum under my desk, and drawing out my homework. In fact, I was just finished with the doodle of Darth Vader when the lunch bell rang. The class hastily formed a line and marched out the door. Lunch was one of the best times of day. That is, if there was quality food and less people and less talking and less socialization. So in reality, lunch was my least favorite time of day. I frowned as a large old lady with a mole on her forehead gave me a generous serving of, I don't even know, like roadkill stew or something. And when I whimpered faintly as I eyed the suspicious concoction. As she caught my gaze, she narrowed her eyes and mumbled something about spoiled rich kids and their high expectations of food. I peered down the aisle of food and spotted my sister near the cash register, talking with a gaunt lady with a stained white apron. She wore a look of solemn innocence, but little did the lady know that my sister was hiding 3 moon pies behind her back. When the lady walked away, my sister dropped the act and sauntered over to a table. When she saw me, she held up the moon pies for me to see and gave me an impish grin. I slid my serving tray off the aisle and searched for a place to sit. The closest seat I could find happened to be next to Macy, the prettiest and the pettiest girl in school. I could feel her smirk right before she even began blabbing her mouth. "Nice shirt. Where'd you get it? Macy's?" I didn't care to respond. "Are you ignoring me?" she whined, puffing out her upper lip and batting her eyelashes. I ever so slightly turned my head and gave her a bored glare. It was amazing how soon a normal conversation with her turned into a brag session. "My daddy bought me an ugly doll keychain for my birthday. Now I own all of them." I sipped my soup daintily as she went on. "I wonder how many silly bands you would have to sell so you could just get one ugly doll, huh, Rinny?" "I have no need for an ugly doll," I replied calmly. "After all, I see you every day." She opened her mouth to talk back, but apparently couldn't think of anything to say because her lower lip began wobbling and she wailed loud enough for the teacher to hear. When the teacher noticed Macy pointing at me and crying, she ordered me to go sit at the end of the table where nobody else sat. I let out an exaggerated groan and stalked off with my tray. Once I was out of earshot, I sat down by myself and let loose a contented sigh. Mission successful. I could finally eat alone. About 30 minutes later, I found myself sitting in class again. I rested my chin in my hands and scanned the sheet of paper neatly laid in front of me. Math. Gross. Whoever invented it must have been an idiot. My eyes glazed over as the teacher read equations on the board for us to solve. Suddenly, a bell even louder than the lunch bell rang throughout the school. Recess. I was safe from this black hole of boredom at last. My classmates cheered as they raced out the door. I stretched my bones and breathed in the fresh air as I walked outside. I spotted my friend Allison, and we ran off to go play. Since we were in different classes, we liked to exchange information about who and where to that day or what kind of trash they'd served us at lunch that day. I could probably fit my entire face within the rim of that makeshift phone. One of our favorite games was one I like to call the shocking game, which consisted of us taking turns going down the overly static slide and rubbing our hands all over the inside of it, which, looking back, probably wasn't the most sanitary idea, and then shocked each other. In fact, we were playing this game for a while, and in fact, I was probably sliding down the slide for probably the 50th time when I spotted him. His golden hair gleamed in all its glory, his tan skin glowing like the sun incarnate.
Ooh, yeah.
As he was the captain of the flag captain back home, a grade older than me and a total cokehead, I was absolutely oh my god.
Continue, keep on going.
Yeah, okay. We're done.
Daniel.
He waved to me and my bones melted. Of course, I couldn't talk to him because he was with his cool friend, so I just awkwardly waved back and hid myself in the slide for the rest of recess. The bus ride home was as unpleasant as always. I'm fairly certain that my skull was bruised in every place possible. The bus eventually reached the driveway again. The bus lady slammed on the brakes, making everyone inside lurch forward unexpectedly. Once we came to a full stop, my sister and I descended the staircase and retrieved our rusted scooters. Once we made it back home, I tossed my bag to the ground and kicked off my shoes with a flourish. Then I flopped onto my bed in exhaustion and watched my ceiling fan turn until I fell asleep. What seemed like only a couple of minutes later, I woke to my alarm blaring at me once again. I've been doing this for 85 days now with 96 more to go.